Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas. Anyway, we want to wish you guys Merry Christmas. Hope you enjoyed the holidays. We're here at the Joe Cortez Show. And we just share a little bit of history of some of our great referees of the past. So last week when Steve Smoger passed away, I said, wow, that was sad, you know. But the week before that, Mills Lane passed away. So I said, I better dedicate a show to the referees this year about their duties and some of their history, some of the great ones. I can tell you that as a referee that I've been for over 35 years, I retired 10 years ago, 2012, after I got inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I said to myself, you know, I'm going to dedicate myself to helping my colleagues out there. Got young referees out there that are coming up the ranks doing very well. I mentioned a few like Russell Mora just retired recently. He was one of my proteges. He retired recently, 2 weeks ago. And you got Kenny Bayless, you got Luis Pabon, you got Mike Ortega, you got Celestino Ruiz, you got Robert Hoyle, you got Vic Drakulich. You got so many referees from the United States that are doing well. And I can tell you that some referees from California, Thomas Taylor, who you refereed last week, and there's other referee that there's so many referees out there that are doing a great job. But I want to say the duties of a referee are so important because a referee sometimes they dictate the fight as far as the way the fight is being taken care of, how you handle the fight. So the ring mechanics of a referee, the duties of a referee. One of the main jobs of referees, protecting the fighters from taking unnecessary punishment. So I can tell you that as a referee, you have to enforce the rules, but by the same token, you have to also be fair with the fighter. That's why I call it unfair, but I'm firm when I say to the fighter, because I am. I was fair with the fighter, giving them a chance, but I was firm when it came to my duties as a referee. Sometimes there's times when you got to start giving warnings to fighters. You give them light warnings, then there are strong warnings, then there are point deductions. Then you have to know when to take a point. You don't want to take a point if you don't have to. You try to give them a strong warning, talk to them in between rounds, in the corner, tell them, listen, you're committing, you're hitting low blows, you're holding, excessive holding. You hear your opponent, if you hear your opponent while he's down, it's going to cost you points, things like that. So you have to try to, before you start taking points or before you disqualify a fighter, give him the light warning, strong warning, then the point deductions. Those are duties of a referee. And it's not easy doing that because you don't want to take a championship fight from a fighter who's making maybe a couple of $1 million, maybe $5, $10, $15, $20 million for a fight. And you got to disqualify that fighter for a call that you didn't have to disqualify. You could have gave a point deduction. You know, some fighters, they commit headbutts, and you commit a headbutt, you call time, and you give them a warning, then you go take them to the judges, take 1 point, 2 points, depending on the severity of the foul. If the headbutt causes an injury, then there's a 2-point deduction, or he may be disqualified if the other fighter can't continue. So there's a lot of things that go on, you know. There's a double knockdown with two fighters get knocked down at the same simultaneously, get knocked down. What do you do? People say, oh, well, I never seen that happen. Well, it has happened. It has occurred many times where two fighters go down, they both punch each other, they both go down. What does a referee do? You can't start counting. You start counting. One gets up at 7. Okay, he's up at 7. And then you keep on with the count of the other one that's still down at 8, 9, and 10 for the other one. Or if neither one of them gets up, you count them both out. So it's not a draw, it's a double knockout. Remember that. Some states want to call it a draw, and that's why you referees, when you travel around the country, around the world, find out what are the rules in that particular state because, you know, as far as I know, as far as the way it should have been from day one, if there's a double knockout, the referee should not call it a draw because then on the record books it shows that it was a draw. It doesn't show nothing that he was knocked out. And if you're knocked out, sometimes the commission, the doctors will give you 30 days, 60 days, 90-day suspension. And if you fight this month, you got knocked out, and you're going to fight next month, they don't bother to even look because it says a draw, okay. So they don't even bother to look. Now this fighter can go there, damaged goods for the next fight. So you want to make sure that the record showed that he got knocked out. Okay, so a draw, you know, or even a technical draw is not even good enough. It's a double knockout. They both got knocked out. Anyway, those are some of the duties of a referee. There's so much that goes on. The referee is the captain of the ship. He has to make sure he's doing his job. He got to control the cornerman. He got to control anything that goes on in the ring, controlling the fighters. You know, that domain is yours. You're in charge. And you have to make sure that there's no water in the corner. Sometimes they throw too much water on the fighters in the corner. Then they get up, the corner is all soaking wet. The fighters are moving around there. They slip on the water there. So it could be dangerous. So you have to make sure that the inspectors in the corner take control, making sure that these fighters, the trainers don't abuse of throwing too much water on the fighters. Sometimes they put excessive Vaseline on the fighters. That's against the rules. They got to make sure that there's not too much Vaseline, making sure that they have two mouthpieces. In most states, they say you have to come in with two mouthpieces in case one gets dislodged from a punch or they lost it. When they go back to the corner, so you don't waste time, they should have the second mouthpiece to put in. So some states don't require that, but it'd be a good idea if all states require the fighters when they come to the match, that the night of the fight, in the dressing room, when the referee goes in there to give the instructions, you want to make sure that they have two mouthpieces. Make sure the cup. I've refereed fights where a fighter came into the ring, I went to check and making sure, that he had a mouthpiece, the gloves are laced up right, and everything right. Make sure he had a cup. Make sure the cup, you check the cup, you tap him. You find out he didn't have a cup on. Hey, wait a minute, where's your cup? Oh, they forgot. So now they got to run back to the dressing room. They got to take him back there. All this time, you're on TV, you got to wait now for all of this. All this can be avoided if the inspectors back in the dressing room are doing their job to making sure that the laces are on right, making sure that the cup is not too high, making sure that they have a cup on, and make sure that the gloves, make sure that commissions have a second pair of gloves underneath the ring, because our ringside there, because there's sometimes a glove can get torn during the fight, and you have to replace the glove. Sometimes they don't have a glove, and they don't know what to do, so it's good for the referees to make sure the day before, or when they talk to the supervisor, to see what are the protocols in that state to make sure that there's a second set of gloves in case a glove gets torn or something. It has happened to me. It has happened to many referees in the past when a referee, when a fighter, the glove is torn for whatever reason. So making sure all these duties of a referee. So all the referees I'm going to mention in a few minutes are some of the top referees. I've done so much great work throughout the years. I'm going to start with some of the referees, and most of these referees, I would say 90% of them I have refereed, and they have passed since I started refereeing in 1977. So I'm going to say some of the referees that are New York, for example, Arthur McCanty, one of the great referees, Vinny Rainoni, Johnny Lobianco, Luis Rivera, Joe Santapia. Question mark on Joe Santapia, because I haven't heard from him in a long time, and nobody's known anything about him. I think he's passed, but I'm not sure. Joe Santapia, another good referee. Lou Eskin, Wayne Kelly, Tony Perez. Those are some of the referees from New York. If I miss some, you guys want to, on your questions or on your comments, put in a comment. I want you guys to like and comment on the shows. Every time we do a show, put a like and a comment on it. I can respond back to you guys. But I also put in there, like I said, if the referee that I did not mention, please put him down, because maybe one of the next shows in the near future, I'd like to mention them as well. So that Tony Perez was the last one from New York. Then from Puerto Rico, the only one that I can think of is Waldemar Smith, who was a good referee from Puerto Rico. You have Duke Larson from Connecticut. You have Larry Rosadilla from California, Rudy Ortega, Chuck Hazzard, Tony Gonzalez from Colorado, Lou Filippo, who played the Rocky movies. He was one of the referees, another good, nice guy and a good referee. And then referees from Nevada that I can think of, Richard Green, Mitch Halpern, another rising star, good referee. He passed away early. Toby Gibson, Davy Pearl, Joey Curtis, and Mills Lane, who passed away most recently. Mills Lane, the one who you say, let's get it on. Okay, good guy. From New Jersey, Steve Smoke, who passed away last week, Eddie Cotton, who passed away. Then from Philadelphia, Zach Clayton, Frank Cappuccino. Those are just some of the top referees that I can think of that took note of a couple of days ago. And you have a lot of young referees, like I said before, referees that are coming up the ranks. And I can tell you that there's so many referees. Out of California, there's some top referees out there. And sometimes I go blank on their names, and man, I don't know why sometimes I slip on some of the names, but you guys got to forgive me. But you have, I know Caiz Jr., Caiz Sr., two other referees from California. And you have the well-known other referee, his name, excuse my mind, he's married to a Puerto Rican lady. He's a nice guy. He does all the big fights in California. And I just, right for this moment, maybe before the show's over, I'll come up with his name. Yes, it slipped my mind. And I just say that I can say that referees are so special in so many ways because these referees are dedicated their lives to boxing like myself. You know, I started as a referee back in 1977, but prior to that, I was a fighter. So being a fighter has helped me to recognize certain things that go on in the ring when you're refereeing. And I can tell you that back in the days when I started refereeing, Larry Hazard was a great referee. He refereed for a short period of time, but it was because he got called in from the governor of New Jersey, asking to become a New Jersey State boxing commissioner. And to this day, he's still commissioner. Larry Hazard, my brother, we've worked many years together, and we come up with a lot of ideas. I can tell you that Larry Hazard, when he became a commissioner, he was, before he became commissioner, him and I would call each other on a daily basis, 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, just to create different scenarios so we can see how we can change what we did, we revolutionized refereeing because there were really no rules back before. When I started boxing, there was really no set rules. There were no seminars given by any commissioner, nobody around the world. So Larry Hazard and I and Dr. Mike Xavier started giving the first boxing seminars in Atlantic City back in 1979. Was the first seminar ever given by any commission, and we were part of the commission. So Larry Hazard and I, Dr. Mike Xavier, started that. Then every other state caught on, sanctioning bodies caught on, and they wanted Larry Hazard and I to give seminars and to all officials from around the world. So I've been to China, I've been to Korea, Japan, Germany, South America, different places all over the world, Mexico, Puerto Rico, giving seminars all over the world just to get the referees to learn a little bit about my ring mechanics and duties of a referee. Because referees, like I said before, they play a big role when it comes to boxing. You have to make sure that we make the right calls and making sure that the fighters win, that are going to win the fight. Any fight, whether fighter A, fighter B, want to make sure that they get a fair shake from the referee. You don't want a fighter to lose a title or a major fight because of a referee lacking some of his duties. That's why the seminars are so important. I say that referees all over the world and commissioners and sanctioning bodies should make sure you have seminars on a regular basis and try to get the officials to work hand in hand with each other and making sure that you're all on the same page. You don't want to, from the commission, you want one referee make one call one way and the other referee makes it a different way. You all got to sit down together and discuss how are we going to work this out where we're all uniformity across the board. Everybody should be working together and have the rules, one set of rules. In baseball, you don't have rules in New York for the New York Yankees and in Boston, Red Sox are different rules. No, they're all the same. The same thing should apply in boxing. All rules should be all in one set page, one set rule for everybody. Now, sometimes you get referees that travel to abroad. They travel abroad to, let's say they go to Italy, they go to Japan, they go to different places, and the rules are different. And that's why the referees get confused. And sometimes the one who pays for it are the fighters. A fighter that lost a fight because the rule that was applied in that state, in that country or state, is different than the rule that the referee came in there thinking it was. And I tell referees, if you go to a foreign country or a different state, check with the commission there before the fight. You have a date of the weigh-in the day before. Check with them. That's the opportunity for you to check with the commission. Get the rules that they have there, making sure that you abide by the rules that they have. You don't want to call a point deduction where maybe they don't have a point deduction for whatever reason. It should be point deduction across the board for everybody if a fighter commits a foul. But like I said before, doing your homework before you do your fights is so important as a referee. You also want to now you have the luxury. I didn't have that when I was coming up, watching the replay on YouTube channels. You can watch the YouTube channel. You know what fighter you're refereeing that day. Well, do your homework. Look at his style. See what bad habits he has. He may have excessive holding. He may have a habit of hitting low. He may have a habit of punching behind the head with those rabbit punches. That's all illegal. I see a lot of referees let fighters get away with the rabbit punches behind the head. I always said it from day one. Those are illegal punches that should not be permitted, because that's where you got these fighters who get hurt. Some of these fighters get taken out on the stretcher in a coma from a ring because of blows behind the head. And this is where the referee has to be very strong, very strict when it comes to those punches behind the head. That's one of the major fouls in boxing. And I say, if you hit behind the head, to me that's intentional, because that's not something that you threw a punch. Now, if the guy turns his head, and he turns it, and he gets hit behind the head, of course, you can't blame the fighter who threw the punch, because the fighter who tried to get away from the punch, he caused himself getting hit behind the head. So there, you could call it like it was like a legal punch. But you have to be careful that when they do this intentionally, now that's when the referee has to start taking points from the fighters. A good time to making sure that these fighters abide by the rules is telling them in the dressing room. When you give them the instructions in the dressing room, go over the rules. Be very strict about it. You got referees go in the rules into the dressing room before the fight, and you give them. That's where you give them your take control right there. You tell them, you're the referee. You're here to do their fight. You're honored to do their fight. However, I'm here to enforce the rules and for the safety of you fighters. I used to do that with Mike Tyson, with Julio Cesar Chavez, Roberto Duran, Larry Holmes, Joe Calzaghe, Bernard Hopkins, you name them, Julio Cesar Chavez, Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao. I could go a list of referees that I referee, and I've been very strict with them when it comes to fouls, to give them the instructions in the dressing room. When you give good instructions in the dressing room, you're taking control, and it makes your job easier as a referee. You got good referees out there, like I said before, who are doing a great job. I'm so proud to see some of the referees that are doing the work that they're doing. And I can tell you that watching some of these referees that are coming up the ranks right now, I can tell you that I feel like some of these referees are really really top-notch referees. I like the way Benji Esteves, a referee. Benji's been around a while. He's one of my proteges coming up the ranks. I remember watching him in the amateurs in New York. Arthur McCanty, he was one of my favorite referees when I was starting out as a referee, because I used to watch him. He was very, very professional in the ring. Larry Hazard was one of the great ones to watch. I used to watch Larry Hazard. Him and I came up together more or less at the same time as fighters in the amateurs. He never went pro. He could have. If he would have went pro, he probably would have been a world champion. He was that kind of a guy. He was a go-getter, making sure that he did everything correctly. And a fighter who trains right and was taking his job seriously becomes world champion. And sometimes, if you don't make it in the ring as a world champion, you know what? You become a world champion in life. And that's so important. So I say to you guys out there, don't be afraid to do your job correctly. Always have the guts and know you can't be afraid to be in that ring. Then you go to a foreign country because that fight is from that particular country or that particular state. You go in there and you do your job. If you can't take control of fighters because you have the tendency of being nervous because a riot may break out because you may disqualify the fighter, you're thinking about your safety, that you may get hurt, that if I take a point or if I disqualify this fighter, well, then you should not be a referee. In this business, you got to have thick skin to be a referee. I tell you, it's not easy. I got so many friends out there that just don't care. They say, like me. I say, you got to kill me before I do a bad decision when it comes to. One time I was doing a fight in some foreign country. I'm not going to mention the country, and they wanted me to reverse the decision. They wanted me to call it a headbutt when I know it came from a legal punch. I say it was a legal punch from the beginning. They want me to reverse it and make it a headbutt because the local fighter can win. And I said, no, I call it a legal punch, and that fight, if he can't continue because the doctor said to stop it, it was because of the, not because of the, that you say it was a headbutt. No, it was a punch. So being that it was a legal punch, he loses the decision by technical knockout. But they want me to reverse it, and I was not about to do that, and I didn't reverse it. They fought later on, and then the fighter won on the rematch. But you have to be strong with your rules as a referee, making sure that they follow your rules as a referee. You're there to making sure that the right guy wins. And I think that referees all over the world should be very, very have very thick skin to making sure you do your job the way you're supposed to. Now, I can tell other referees that, like I remember watching fighters, referees like Vinny Rainoni. I learned a lot from Vinny Rainoni. Johnny Lobianco was a great referee who did so much when he was refereeing. I learned a lot from him. You had Lou Eskin, who was a good referee for New York, and Lou Eskin did some fights that, as a matter of fact, I think the last fight he did was when Willie Klassen went into a coma from punches he received from a fighter, and that night Willie Klassen passed away 2 days later. And there were so many fights. I mean, I remember watching a fight when Benny Kid Paret passed away from a beating he took from Emil Griffith, and the referee that night, that fight, Ruby Goldstein, got criticized for letting the fight go too long, and that's when sometimes a referee, sometimes you can't freeze up. You gotta you see the guy taking punishment, jump in and stop it. I'd rather stop it a punch too soon than a punch too late, you know. And I say that referees, you are always going to be you're under the microscope at all times when you're refereeing a fight. I don't care how good you are. And, you know, I've done fights where they criticize me, like with the Victor Ortiz and Floyd Mayweather fight. I got criticized for that. They said because they said I lost control. I said the one who lost control was Victor Ortiz for headbutting Mayweather intentionally, and then try to hug him and kiss him three or four times. And when I said time in, he went in to hug him again. Mayweather clocked him. It was illegal. Like Larry Merchant said it best. It was a legal sucker punch. You know, it was a punch that it was legal, but it was kind of like a sucker punch. Because he went to like hug him again to put his hands out again. When I said time in, and that's when people say, Joe, well, one of the most controversial fights. Well, that's one of them, but it was because I didn't lose control. What it was Victor Ortiz who lost control. He confessed on TV when I was working with ESPN. He said that he his coaches told him to headbutt Floyd Mayweather intentionally. He said, Joe, I got rid of all of my coaches. I got rid of my trainers because of that. They embarrassed me. That's not my kind of fighting. I told Victor, listen, you know, don't worry about it. He said, he made a mistake, and you learn from it. He's a nice guy. We've had lunch a couple of times at the ESPN when we were doing shows at ESPN or at the fights. And nice fighter, but you know, he made a mistake that night. So people that keep saying, Joe, you screwed up in that fight, you can say whatever you want. The rule says, when I say time in, when I took my eyes off to look at the timekeeper, making sure the timekeeper saw me, which we all do it all the time. We look at the timekeeper. I happen to look at the timekeeper when Mayweather clocked him with a left and a right. And that's what happened. So I'm glad we cleared that up a little bit. Those are the rules. And if it would have been a different kind of rule, the rule would have been changed on me. They never changed the rule because people that know boxing, those are the rules. That's why I tell fighters, keep your guards up at all times, protect yourselves at all times. And I say that to you individuals out there around the world, in life in general, keep your guards up at all times. But again, I want to offer my condolences to the referees that I mentioned before. And most recently was Steve Moga and Mills Lane, who passed away in the last 2 weeks or so. And again, I want to just apologize if I didn't remember some of the names of some of the officials that I had in mind. I wanted to mention some of the up-and-coming top referees today. But you guys know who you are, and you guys know some of the names that I might have missed. But They are top referees. I respect them all. The one from California who refereed the Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fight. You know who I'm talking about. Good referee, good friend, good guy. I just went blank with his name, and he gonna knock me out when he sees me next time. He said, "Joe, how can you forget my name?" Sometimes that happens. You get that memory loss sometimes, you know. But I'm still sharp. I still look out of spark of the old Flash, but I can't remember his name. I went blank on his name. Anyway, I want to say hello to all my friends out there. Wish you all a Merry Christmas, a prosperous, and a healthy New Year. And remember, keep your guards up at all times, protect yourselves at all times, and say a prayer for all the referees that I mentioned. I'm going to go over the names again one more time in case you miss them. That's Arthur McCanty from New York, Vinny Rainoni, Johnny Lobianco, Luis Rivera, Joseph Tapia, Lou Weskin, Wayne Kelly, Tony Perez. From Puerto Rico, Waldemar Smith, and Connecticut, Duke Larson. From California, Rudy Ortega, Hank Hastrop, Chuck Hazard, Larry Rosadilla, Lou Filippo from the Rocky movie, Lou Filippo. You got Tony Gonzalez from Colorado, New Jersey. You got Eddie Cotton, Steve Smoker, who just passed away last week. Philadelphia, Zach Clayton, and Frank Cappuccino from Philadelphia as well. Nevada, we had Richard Green, Mitch Halpin, Toby Gibson, Davey Pearl, Joey Curtis, Mills Lanes, who passed away 2 weeks ago. Those are the referees that come to mind. If I miss some, please, on your comments, put down a like and also put in comments and share my show with other individuals out there so they can see a little bit of what I'm talking about when it comes to refereeing and duties of a referee and a little bit about boxing. I'll see you guys next week. You take care. God bless you. Keep your guards up at all time. And Merry Christmas. Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas.